Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'm your host, Karen E. Osborne. I hope you've met me a lot because this is coming up to almost 2 years that I've been doing this show. And what's really cool is my guest today is somebody you met in 2021. And I just, I read his second book. Well, we just have so much to talk about. But let me just first introduce you to Mark James Miller. I'm just going to tell you a little bit. I will say hey to everybody, Mark.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here.
All right. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him. So he's an author, a columnist, a teacher. We were just talking before we got on camera about his students and some of the books that he teaches to his students. He has 2 new releases to tell you about because his last year's novel, which you heard about, The White Cockade, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Was released as an audiobook. So how cool is that?
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. And his latest, The Summer Soldiers, is such a good book. And it launches, what's the date that it comes out?
March 23rd.
March 23rd.
March
So just in a
23rd
couple of days from now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, you're just going to love it. And then you're going to, if you didn't read the first one, you're going to want to go back and read it. And that launches on March 23rd, which is my birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
I enjoy and both enjoy historical fiction and page turners. And so you're going to love it. So we have a lot to catch up on though, Mark, because the last time you spoke to our audience, which has grown since, because you were one of my first interviews. You were like I was only like a month or so into it when I interviewed you. And so the audience has grown and but anyway, some of them met you and I'll put your link so they can go back and see the first one.
Yeah.
But tell us kind of what's been going on since April 2021.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very happy. I got a lot of good reviews for The White Cockade, and also a lot of good ones for The Summer Soldiers, advanced reviews, and they'll be on the praise page and all that when it comes out. So that's been very nice. And then I was really especially tickled by the fact that a university in Texas picked up The White Cockade to use in a class on American historical novels. So that really was
Wow.
really nice.
Which university?
It's called Texas Christian University. It's in Dallas. And yeah, I would like to get more of that. I would sure like to get more things like that because that was really, again, that really tickled me to death.
Yeah, that tickled me. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. So that again, made me very happy. And then, of course, I was very happy when Black Rose Writing agreed to publish The Summer Soldiers. And I basically, wrote them both at the same time. I started out with an idea and where I wanted to go with it and where I wanted it to end. And then when I finished, I realized it was way too long. And so they would never publish it. And so I need a break for 1 second, Karen.
Oh, sure.
I have a 4-footed sorry about that. I didn't realize one of my cats had walked in.
Oh, we love animal video. It's fine.
She might get into some mischief, so I didn't realize she was here, so I let her out. But at any rate, I was really tickled when they agreed to publish that. And so, but what had happened was I basically had to cut it in half and kind of change the ending around. And that was The White Cockade. And then I started doing more work on The Summer Soldiers. So I was very pleased to have that one, see that one come out as well. And
so can I ask you a question about that for a second?
Oh, yeah.
So originally it was one book. And then you decided to cut it in half. Did you have to do, or did you end up doing a lot of changes to the second half to get to The Summer Soldiers?
Not that many. I just sort of had to write an ending. of the White Cockade. And so I wasn't sure how to go about that. So I decided to end it with Josiah deciding to go back, and after he left the army, to go back and rejoin his comrades in New York. And so I just had to make a few changes there. So it wasn't terribly hard, but it took some time to get done. And then when that was
Good.
finished, then I, began focusing totally on the Summer Soldiers.
Yeah. And so since you have gotten the White Cockade out, what have some of the other, you said university picked it up, you
Yeah.
got some great reviews, now it has a audio book.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. That it's so exciting to hear someone reading, what you've written, and reading it in this case. And I don't know this person. I don't know how much they must have paid him to do this, because it was an awful lot of work. But it's really really exciting to hear that, to hear him reading this, and interpreting the different characters his own way and so on. So yeah, that's been very exciting.
Yeah, so you were happy with the results.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
really
I like
something.
audiobooks. I also got my first audiobook this year. Reckonings came out with an audiobook, hardcover, softcover,
Uh-huh.
ebook, which was kind of cool. And I actually got to pick my own narrator.
Oh,
Yeah, I found out that if someone doesn't tell our publisher that they would like to read our book, we can go find somebody who would. It's like, yeah, so that was
that's
real.
great. Yeah, I would not even know where to start with that. So I think that's great.
Networking.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All right, so now the Summer Soldiers is out in just a couple of days, and tell our audience a little bit. I know you have to kind of fill them in a little bit more on the first book, but help us want to read the second one, because you're going to love this book, people.
Okay. The Summer Soldiers takes up right where the White Cockade left off. Josiah's gone back to the army, and he's with his comrades in New York, and they're preparing for what an inevitable British attack. And so I was able to weave in an awful lot of not only historical, but do more with the characters and so forth. And so there again, the British attack finally comes, and this was the lowest part of the American Revolution. The Americans were beaten in one battle after another and driven out of New York and out of New York State, out of Manhattan.
So what year would this be?
This was 1776. And so, yeah, it almost came to an end. And I was able to include actually this really happened where the Declaration of Independence is read to the men. Oh, and also Josiah this is again based on a true story, saves George Washington's life. The British actually had concocted a plan to assassinate him. And so I was able to weave in that Josiah kind of unwittingly does foil it. So he gets a special commendation from Congress for doing this. But again, the main thrust of the story is they get driven out of New York. Josiah, when they witness the burning of New York City burned, about half it burned down at that time. Nobody knows who set the fire. Both sides blame the other. And then he eventually gets sent to Fort Washington. And this was the biggest American defeat of the war. The British captured it, and he's captured and sent to, again, this little known part, the British mistreated the American prisoners something really badly. And so he gets sent to this hellhole in New York. He escapes from there and gets back into the fight, more or less. And so I was able to include all that. I was also able to include things like the story of Nathan Hale, the young man who said, "I only have one life to give for my country." I was able to include that in there as well. And then so George Washington crossing the Delaware, and a lot of other interesting things, like probably our first American power couple, the people who helped fought on the British side. That's what I'm getting at right here. And the Loring family, Elizabeth and Joshua Loring. And they were like our first, again, kind of a power couple. And General Howe noticed her right when he first came to the colonies. Evidently, she was a very beautiful woman. So she became his mistress in exchange for him becoming the general proprietor of the British Army. And so that was a very lucrative position. And so he got very wealthy from that. So again, make of that what you will. But when the war came to an end, they left knowing they wouldn't be very welcome. And they ended up going back to England and finishing and lived the rest of their lives there.
Yeah, there's so many cool details in the book. And it makes you feel like you're right in the thick of things, but you also care so much about what happens to Josiah, what happens to his band of buddies, the women in the story. It's very character and plot driven, which makes the best books. So here you are trying to.
I was going to say also, I learned an awful lot of other things too that I didn't know. Like, for example, what an awful time gay people had in those days. And, Hugo, the other characters, gay, and they were subject, like he is, to blackmail. People found out about what their sexual orientation, and blackmailed them and so forth. And there was also a hotel in New York City. It survived the fire, called the Janus Hotel. And it was where gay men would go, and they could just go there and be themselves, or meet up with somebody, have a hookup there, something like that. So there's so much to learn about all this, and so much to take in and try to include in it.
Yeah, you're a history teacher?
No, I teach English at Allen Hancock College in Santa Maria, California, and I teach English and critical thinking.
Cool. So how do you handle marketing? Because I tell you, we have so many writers out there who are watching us and listening to us, and I hear everybody just complain about that side, and yet without it, our readers can't find us.
Yeah, I find it very difficult. And I think probably like most writers, I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, so it's kind of hard to put yourself out there. But I want to try to reach the best audience that you can, and try to advertise in places where again, people might be more interested in reading this than somewhere else. I've advertised in Kirkus Review, for example, and several other places. It's expensive though, and so I try to use my marketing budget as wisely as I can. But lately I've just sort of turned it over and let Black Rose Writing handle that, do promotions and so forth.
Yeah.
So I found that's the least stressful thing.
It's the least stressful, that's for sure.
Best way to go.
That's for sure.
I find that very difficult.
Yeah, one of the things that our publisher told me, which I'm finding to be true, and then I think you will find it to be true, is that he can market us better when there are at least 2 books that he's published. So things should pick up.
Yes.
So are you working on anything now?
Yes, when I finished the Summer Soldiers, I had intended to move on to something else. And then I thought, a little voice told me there's one more story here, there's one more book here. And so I'm working on something now. It's called The Times That Try Men's Souls, which is, of course, a quote from Thomas Paine. And it continues more or less where the Summer Soldiers ends. Summer Soldiers ends, you might remember, with Josiah and Violet and Adam intending to go back home. And so I decided to pick it up from there. And let me kind of read my notes that I have here. It's another little known part of the American Revolution. And during 1778 and 1779, there was a great deal of fighting in northern Pennsylvania and western New York, and the Iroquois tribes and Tories, Americans who fought on the British side, Tory Rangers, they were called. They had their own Ranger regiment with their own uniforms and so forth, really ravaged through this area, burning down settlements, houses, farms and so forth. And it got so bad that Washington decided to dispatch 5,000 soldiers, American soldiers, to the Mohawk Valley. And it's been called our first real genocide against the Native Americans because even though they didn't kill that many of them, but what they did, and this is what Washington told them to do, they basically just drove them out of that whole area, drove them to Canada primarily. And something, again, I did not know. There were 6 different Iroquois tribes, and they had passed from the nomadic stage, which a lot of Native Americans still were. They were settled. They lived in houses. They lived in towns of their own, and so 40 of their towns were burned to the ground. They planted crops, corn, squash, things like that. They had huge fields of corn. Those are all burned. 160,000 bushels of corn were destroyed. They also had orchards and so forth where they grew apples and oranges and everything. Those were all burned down, as well as their homes and so forth. So basically, they was driven out of this area
Wow.
and never to return.
Wow.
And the
So is
Iroquois,
one of your protagonists for the
Yeah.
new book, is one of them an Iroquois?
no, I have not done that. I have some of the same characters, and I'll have some from the Iroquois point of view, but I didn't really get into that much. I wanted to, again, to stick with this basic story of
Stick
this,
with your
of this
story.
thing that's happening. Yeah.
Well, it sounds fascinating, and I look forward to reading that one. Do you have any recommendations other than your wonderful books for our audience, something that they might enjoy reading?
I'm right now reading kind of a lost classic. It's called 3 Cities, and it's by a man named Sholem, Sholem Asch, Asch. He wrote in Polish, and this is about Warsaw, St. Petersburg, and Moscow during the World War I era and the time of the Russian Revolution. And yeah, it's great. I mean, it really is great stuff. It's comparable like with Tolstoy, I think.
Excellent. Thank you. So if our audience wanted to find you, they wanted to find out about your launch, which is coming up really fast, if they wanted to find out about your other books and what else you're doing, where can they find you?
I'm revising my website right now. And so I'm hoping that'll be done pretty soon, markjamesmiller.com, I'm hoping. But I'm on Amazon. I have an author's page on Amazon. And actually, if you just type my name in on Google, see all kinds of things will come up. What I'm hoping to do is consolidate. I've written a lot of columns. Many years I was a columnist, haven't had time lately, but I'd like to consolidate all of those in one place. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. So if anybody wants to find out more, I'm sure we'll be doing a launch, but just type Mark James Miller novelist on Google and a lot of stuff will come up.
All right. Doesn't that sound cool? And a lot of stuff will come up. I
Yeah,
like that.
I kind of, yeah, I wrote one of my columns. I wrote, a lot of people have read, I wrote about how it's never too late to make your dreams come true. And, I've always dreamed of becoming a novelist, but it didn't happen until later in life. So that's been very popular. And
Yes,
so
me
like
too.
that.
I have to go back and look at that because I became a novelist really late in life as well. And if you Google me, Karen E. Osborne, you'll find out all kinds of things about my previous life. But the books come up too. The books do come up too. I want to thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us again. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. We so appreciate your loyalty. I love hearing from you. And we love you. Like if you contact us online, we might just say, I met you at What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? See you next time.
Okay. I also have Twitter, and I'm also on Twitter and Facebook too.
Oh,
I should
cool.
have mentioned that. Yeah.
Twitter and Facebook. Instagram?
Instagram I started, but I'm not very good at it yet. So yeah, I need more.
It's a good place for
work on
writers.
that. Yeah.
All right. Take care,
Okay.
everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Very happy to be here.